All I know is I am almost certain, pretty sure, director took a look at all the commentary regarding all the people that feel salty about the ending of Titanic. Yeah, I am almost certain he was thinking of those people in their commentary when he made this film. Hey everyone, this is D, Movieman, a fellow cinephile, popcorn addict, and emerging film critic, coming to you with reliable recaps, reviews, and reactions. And today I'm coming to you all with my out of the theater, not in the theater, my official out of the theater thoughts, this time for Eternity. Co-written and directed by David Freyne, and starring Miles Teller, Elizabeth Olsen, Callum Turner, Divine Joy Randolph, and many more. Story-wise, the film is centered around Joan, a woman who passes away at the end of her life and finds herself now faced with an impossible choice, namely, who to spend her eternity with. So, of course, I'm going to start with my pros. As I said before, this film is directed by David Freyne, and he has previously directed the films Dating Amber and The Cured, and I must say that if you take a quick look at the synopsis, both of those films have a very intriguing premise. So already I was kind of like, I'm really interested in taking a look at those and seeing what's going on there and how those stories play out. And I have to say, in keeping with that, I think the premise of this film is really interesting. We've seen a lot of films regarding the afterlife, especially with films like Beetlejuice. You know, there are always these very unique, distinct looks at how the afterlife and after death and purgatory and heaven, hell, everything in between, there are all these ideas of what that looks like. And I think this film manages to find its own slice of that. It's something very unique in its own way, but of course we're also using the lens of a character who is having to make a choice regarding spending her eternity with her first husband that she lost during war, and then her current husband who she has technically spent the rest of her life with, and now has to make that decision. Like I said before, all those people who get upset about the ending of Titanic regarding, Rose and why is that who she would see and, not the guy that she was married to and yeah. There's no way I can prove it, but it's definitely giving that if we could have a film set where Rose had to make the decision, it would be this film. And I have to say that when it comes down to that premise and seeing how this variation of that was, I found it to be really entertaining. There were definitely some laughs to be had. I also thought the visuals, to an extent, especially when you see the dynamic and the style of the afterworld, I suppose you can call it, I thought that was really intriguing. I also loved seeing the fact that it was set up like this open market where everyone is wanting to sell and push their version of eternity. There's bromance world, there's fitness world, there's beach world, mountain world. The list really went on. There's so many, and I think even that in itself I enjoyed. I honestly could have watched a whole sequence of just all the different eternities that were available. I thought that was so well crafted. I thought it was quirky, it was enjoyable, and man, it really put a smile on my face, especially when that was the focus of the film. As far as our cast, we have some really solid performers here. Of course, Elizabeth Olsen. Most of us know her as Wanda Maximoff / Scarlet Witch from the MCU, but I can tell you right now, just based off the strength of Silent House, Wind River especially, and also His Three Daughters, I believe that just came out at the end of this last year. But she's a really solid performer, and it was nice to see her get to do a little bit more in the comedic lane, although we definitely see some emotions as well. So she's always captivating. I always enjoy seeing her on screen, and as always, she did not let me down in this film. And then Miles Teller, I was introduced to in Rabbit Hole and then Fan Four Stick. One was a pretty gripping, emotionally devastating film. The other one was an absolute cinematic atrocity, but we all know that at this point. And I can also say that Callum Turner, I was introduced to when he portrayed Prince Anatole in the 2016 War and Peace miniseries. Really enjoyed that. And of course, he also starred in the Fantastic Beasts films. I think the dynamic between all three actors was pretty solid. I enjoyed it. It was something that made for a really interesting dynamic because how do you make that choice? How do you deal with that? How do you deal with the grieving, the loss, the confusion, the disorientation, and then the pressure of figuring out like what is the rest of my life going to be now that my life has ended? So yes, I really did have that investment as far as the story. And I also have to say, of course, that Divine was absolutely a delight. I mean, I always enjoy her, but I think she definitely has some standout moments in this. Very comedic, very silly, very over the top. But naturally, I was totally here for it. Now, jumping over to the cons, I would say that as fun and intriguing and entertaining as the premise is, I think it gets kind of lost in what it wants to do and what it wants to say. It reminds me a lot of Downsize, starring Matt Damon. I felt like the premise and the concept regarding that film started off very promising, but then by the time we got to the end, it's just like, what is this? What exactly are we doing here? And it's not to say that there aren't really delightful aspects of that film as well as this one. But I think when I got down to the end, it just all felt very emotionally flat for some reason and very underwhelming. I was just kind of like, okay. And then I think what also didn't help is that I could see the ending coming a mile away. It was extremely predictable in that regard. It's like, well, duh. Like, we know that's going to happen. So it made it feel even more like, okay, all right, sure. I suppose. It was fine, but I wasn't blown away. As a matter of fact, I was kind of let down. I think I was expecting a little bit more out of the story, and even just what they wanted to explore regarding grief and loss, the afterlife, and just the idea of how one lives their life, the people that they live it with, and what that means. I think there were a lot of wasted opportunities to dig deeper. There were moments where I thought the writing worked, and then there are other times where I just thought it fell flat. It's like, this isn't funny, this isn't emotional, this isn't moving, this isn't gripping, this isn't capturing me. Yeah, no. So I just think there was an opportunity there, but it didn't do it for me ultimately. And I would also say that I think considering how the film takes its time getting to its ultimate resolution, I just kind of felt that it was way too long. This is not a 2-hour film. This was 90 minutes at best, maybe 100. That final act, I was like, all right, let's wrap it up. I'm ready to go home. Let's move it. And again, because the ending was so predictable, it just made it all feel more like, okay, sure, okay, fine. But you could have done all of that in way less time. So I'm going to give Eternity a C-. This is a feel-good film, very much a different kind of rom-com, not a genre we see a whole lot of. So it definitely is a film that I think many people will enjoy, and I did enjoy it, but ultimately, you know, sometimes I need a little bit more, and this film did not give me more. So if you're looking for something a little more surface, then cool. But I was looking for it to give me just a little bit more of a punch, you know, to grip me and just pull me in a little bit more, and it never really got there. So there's that, but I will say I did at least appreciate the experience. So yeah, there's that. Eternity will be released the week of Thanksgiving. You all feel free to check it out, leave your thoughts below, and let me know what you think. So once again, this is D, Movieman, signing off, and I'll see you at the movies.